Hey, what's going on, everybody? Michael Daly back at you guys and girls, the host of the Real 1% podcast. Thanks for coming back and joining us for another great episode. Today, we got another great veteran guest here. He attained the rank of Command Sergeant Major, so that is the highest rank on the enlisted side. So we know he's always striving for greatness. His name is Herman Estrada. He's from Texas, all right? He served in the Special Forces. He's airborne qualified. The guy has medals after medal after medal after medal. He's a high achiever, and I can't wait to get into our conversation today. He's got 9 children and a beautiful wife. He's been retired for a little while, and he's also talked to me about a slew of benefits that come with being a veteran. So I can't wait till we get into some things like VRE, Veterans Readiness and Employment, also known as VOC Rehab, VA loan, and all these other benefits that he's actually used in the last couple of years of being out of service. Another thing that stuck out to me when I spoke with Herman last night at about 1:30 in the morning, when we had a great conversation for a few minutes before we got on here today, was he said when he was getting out the Army, he didn't let off the gas. And that's something that a lot of people probably do. They try to take that last few months or year to coast out. But this guy right here, he stuck it out, and he said that he was doing schools that no one else wanted to do on the military's dime still while getting paid, which I thought was something that's amazing to have and a great mindset to have. Gets up every day, 4:30 in the morning, still getting in PT, still getting after it. And some of the things that he's accomplished while he was in before he got out was supply chain management, Lean Six Sigma, Agile Scrum certification, PMP, ethical leadership. He retired out of Fort Carson, Colorado with 10th Special Forces Group. He's also airborne qualified. He moved to Fort Worth, Texas to complete his CDL. Now he has, he said, a small business of 5 trucks, but I don't think that's small. I think that's pretty damn awesome, to say the least. His granddaughter just joined the Marine Corps, and his son's getting ready to ship off to the Army after the new year. And some of his goals is to give back, continue with his servant leadership, and empower the future leaders of tomorrow. So without further ado, my boy Herman, how you doing this morning, brother?
Hey. First thing and foremost, hey, I'm honored and privileged to be a part of your podcast. I think it's important that people understand the biggest gift you can give anyone is your time. All right, because it's something you cannot get back, you can't buy, you can't borrow, you can't steal it. It continues to roll on. So I'm happy to be here today, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation with transition.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to dive in. So without further ado, like good old Sergeant's time training, we're about to just dive right into it. And really the first thing I would like to ask you is, what made you join the military?
It's just crazy. I've told my story on different podcasts, and to understand who I am and why I do the things I do, it's just like anyone else. You strive and you want success, but what people fail to realize that change begins within you. You have to be the one to create change. But people don't understand that when you build that mindset, it's not just continue to change. It's that transformation that you're doing every day. And me, I dropped out of high school. I was in some situations, always in trouble. My parents kicked me out of the house, and I dropped out of high school because nobody was holding me accountable. And the military was the way that I was able to redefine who I was and be able to put back on that path and create something negative into something positive. And that's what I like to give on everything that I share on the internet or talk with people. It's about positivity. You can't have a positive lifestyle with a negative attitude. So you have to redefine that in your life.
Absolutely. So was it like the cadence, like they say, go to war or go to jail? Or was it like, you pretty much like the good old cadence, or not even?
No, I'd actually got hurt, and I was building a super Walmart. It's crazy because I've done everything: construction, roofing, residential, commercial. I've done framing, water sprinklers, cook, you name it, I've done it.
Yeah.
And to join the Army, to see this first commercial and join the Army at be all that you can be, and then I just wanted to do it. It looked adventurous. It intrigued me. My curiosity just pushed me that way, so I joined, and I began to love the values and what the Army stood for. Yeah, there's bad sides to everything, just like there's a yes and a no. There's a right and a wrong. It's everywhere, but it's all up to you on what choices and decisions you make to be successful in your life.
Absolutely. Well, and you were a light wheel mechanic when you joined, right?
Yes, yes. And then I didn't start active duty right away. I was a reservist for, I think it was a little bit over 2 years, like 2 years. I did reserve time out of Sinton, Texas.
Okay.
And I started out working on generators and then moved into wheel vehicles. But yeah, I loved it. It was 63 Bravo at the time because it was the early 90s.
Okay.
So you know how the Army is, they try to find ways to align people with their officers, warrant officers, and their soldiers. You know, so they changed it to 91 Bravo.
Did you think you were going to stay in for a long time, or did you just get in a couple years and then get out? What was your mindset?
My mindset was just try to be successful. It wasn't to stay in for a long time. I think after me and my wife began having kids, and you know they started rolling up, and I was like, you know, this is something I need to make a career because you know the benefits were remarkable. You know, if you have
Absolutely.
never looked on the internet and see what it costs to have a kid or a baby in the civilian life, that's expensive. You know, to have you know 3 or 4 other kids in the army and not have to pay, but you know, for food. So I was like, hey man, I'm gonna do this. I got babies now. I got to think career mindset. I got to stay, you know, positive on how I do this. So that's what I did. I just made it a career after that.
Did it go by fast for you, or did it sort of,
Man, well, as time rolled, you know, as you're having fun and you're doing the things you're doing, and as you start to show your potential, because the army is the one place that gives you the ability to show your skill set and to be able to compete against yourself and be able to put yourself on the map. And I think as I began to learn the systems and follow the army and you know mature, rank just continued to come, and it just started consuming my time, and I began to love it. It became a passion. And I tell people, I don't know how you can't be passionate about being a soldier and fighting for soldiers when you're one, you know. And
right?
yeah, time began to fly. Before you know it, I was a first sergeant. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, let's back up a minute. And and for many people, I tell them, you know, as a 91 ordnance, you know, mechanic ordnance, you know, our career path is determined. You have to have a lot of first sergeant time. So I was a first sergeant for about a good 9 years, 9, 10 years. I had 5 companies, and I did everything. I did from FSCs to the STB to the HBN, you know, in Korea, which is the division first sergeant level. So if you don't really realize it, you know, you got your line first sergeant, which is the FSC, and then you got your battalions, which are the STBs or the HHCs in the headquarters, and then you got the HHBNs, which are the division level. Just like an E9, you know, you have different positions, although we're all E9s, but they're different levels, as you call
Right.
them.
So how was your leadership and everything coming up in the military? Did you get under some good leadership that made it easy for you to stay when you embraced it with your family and you just were like, hey, I'm gonna make a career? Did you have a pretty good time coming up through the ranks?
Man, it's just like any other soldier. You know, I faced adversity. You know, you're always going to have great and outstanding leadership, and you're going to have some that, you know, they kind of struggle. They're more about themselves. You know, throughout my time, I had a lot of great leaders, and I had some leaders that really tested you, you know, because uh, they were either trying to take care of themselves or others. And I learned from everyone, man. I'll tell you, Mike, can I call you Mike?
Yeah.
You good with that?
Yeah, no problem.
Mike, you know, I took from the bad, and I told myself I won't do that. I won't be that way. And I took from the good, you know, understanding that, you know, that is the type of leadership that people need to have. And you know what's right or wrong. You know, you
Yeah,
think about it as you're a private coming up. The one thing that nobody likes is people playing with their time
that's
or
true.
wasting your time. You know, that's the biggest thing that soldiers have an issue with is when you begin to mess with their time and their family time. And that's one thing as I became a leader, I was able to control. And so I was able to make change in that. So I believed, you know, if they ain't doing nothing, get them out of there. It's
Yeah,
okay. Because
yeah,
when it's time to get to the field or do a range or Calfex or mass, whatever, we're all going to be there and we're going to put in the time. So why not be that way when you're back in garrison, trying to train, and Fridays especially was my thing. Fridays was 2 o'clock, people were gone. 1400, I didn't want to see nobody. 1300, if you really didn't have nothing, you need to be gone. Spend some family time.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, time is the one thing you're never going to get back. And like you said, you don't want to be sitting around twiddling your thumbs doing nothing when everyone could be home with their family, because there's going to be long days coming up pretty soon. So nothing wrong with that. And you were in time of war, so I'm sure you deployed several times, right?
Oh yes, yes. I got those. What was it? About three Iraq, two Afghan. I did the Cold War, which was Bosnia and Kosovo. I did some small missions down in Poland. You know, what was it? Tunisia, Morocco,
Wow.
just different places. I mean, it was fun. Being airborne gave me the opportunity and the leverage to be able to do those things.
Okay. How was that with your family? You had a lot, did you have most of your kids when you were deploying, or did you just have a few and then, more came after? Was it tough on your family?
Yes, it was. Look, and that's one thing is I tell people, whether they were military or not, is, your spouse is your center point of gravity. They're the foundation. At least that's what I believe. Because when I leave, she has to take care of that father position. She takes care of the bills. She takes care of all the oohs and owies, the practices, the late nights, the studying, all that stuff. And so,
Yeah.
I come home and I'm like, I have to be there for them as well. And understand that was a slow process coming back, not showing up and say, "Hey, dad's back. This is what I want."
Yeah.
And you disrupt the environment, because you're gone for a year. Nobody understands why you're gone when they're little kids, but when you come back, it's not something you can just jump into and say, "Hey, I'm back. This is what we're doing." It's more
Yeah.
like you wave, you slowly come into that process. And I try to share that with people or soldiers that are deploying and coming back, is take your time, let your wife be that head starter and it's okay to be the lead. You're a leader. You should be a great follower, just like a great leader, and
Yeah,
be
you
able to
got
follow
to.
that lead.
Yeah, you got to do
Yeah.
both. And shout out to your wife and all the other military spouses that are out there holding down the fort, when everyone's got to get over deploy. So it's definitely not an easy job, being gone. Maybe you might even been gone on a 15-month deployment. So whether it's 6 months or 15 months, it's still a long time away from your family. And you're absolutely right about reintegrating. Don't come back and try to change everything, disrupt the family. Just try to come back, ease your way in, and make it happen like that. So,
If we look at it like this, they give us the latitude to be able to deploy and just focus on the mission. So
right.
while you're deployed for a whole year, you don't have to worry about nothing but the mission. So when you come back, how about you look at it the same way? Her mission was to take care of the family. Now you got to wing your way in and allow her to do that. But little by little, she's going to transition some of that over to you, and you begin to take those roles. And I always like to take care of my wife as well. Take her on those date nights and try to integrate back and rekindle what was lost for that year. And I found it exciting and fun, and that's why we have so many kids.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, that's interesting that you bring that up, because there's a lot of people in the military that's the marriages don't work out. You've heard the stories. I'm sure you might have even been first sergeant and a sergeant major of people in your company that were going through divorce or getting their bank account drained or getting left. You know what I mean? It's not just on the movies. That's actually real life, because some people just can't handle that. So what did you and your wife do to like keep your marriage going, and obviously that you said the date nights and stuff like that, but even when you were away, did you guys talk a lot? Has she just always been that one to support you and you guys see eye to eye? Because the divorce rate is quite high in the military. So what would be some advice that you would give from being a successful married man for the tension that you have with your wife to other soldiers and people out there?
I think it's allowing them to trust you and you trusting them. Uh, my wife knows my passwords on my phone, you know, uh, understanding that I allow her, if she wants to look at it, she can look at it, being able to share that stuff with them. And, she has access to everything I have access to. There's no secrets. Everything's in the open, uh, we establish a date night. We as the kids go to sleep early, we stay up, we'll drink some wine, watch some movies, or we'll go outside and drink some wine. It's about sharing those times together and rekindling that light that you once had. Because when you're gone a year, that stuff begins to dwindle down. And now it's time to come back and get to know your wife, because she's grown 1 year apart from you, as you're growing 1 year apart from her doing the mission. And all you're thinking about is, oh man, I got to make sure my guys go out today and they come back alive. Hey, we
Yeah.
got we got this objective and we got to meet it today. And
Right.
understanding that those things create different mindsets, and PTSD is real. It's I've never looked down on the one that says that they have PTSD, because it is. While you're in the grind and while you're in the army, you'll never know you have it. But let me tell
Mm.
you, like I told you earlier, when you leave that military environment and your stress levels drop and there's nothing in the world to stress you out, that is when you'll truly see that, oh crap, there's something wrong with me. I'm thinking different. I'm doing this. Like I
Yeah.
realized it when I was driving in Fort Worth that people can't drive. But that irritates me. And
Right.
I began to like rage, man. I mean, rage. And so I had to get help, man. I didn't realize I had it. And like I literally jumped out of the truck several times and were like, "You're a freaking idiot,"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "That's not me. What am I doing?" So it's identifying the actual trigger points and understanding you got to take the time, relax, take a deep breath, and it's not that serious.
No, when you saying that about road rage, man, I can register with that all too well. And realistically, I had to slow myself down too, because this day and age, you don't know if someone's going to just pop off on you, man. You know what I mean? It's not really worth to lose your life over that rage. But I had the same thing when I got out, and it's not something that I was proud of. Definitely not. Doing stuff like that. But at the same time, you don't even catch yourself in the act, because you don't even give yourself time to breathe, time to count, or whatever. You just react just like that, and then you're like, "What the hell did I just do?" Pretty much. So I could relate with that. But I wanted to ask you something that you just touched on, PTSD, and I joined the Army in 2007. So I mean, I'm definitely way after you. But what was the stigma? Excuse me. What was the stigma on sick call and just seeking help while you were in? Because I mean, you're old school. You guys are, you know, all the way. Probably don't show no weakness and stuff like that. But what was it like for you? I mean, you went from private all the way to sergeant major, but how was it for you?
Let me tell you, in the time or the era that I joined the military, things like sick call, PTSD, or having issues at home, those were signs of weakness. And
Absolutely.
it's a stigma. I mean, it's just you just didn't do it. It was people like, hey, you can't count on him. He's got a problem, and he's not reliable. And just the way the army thought in those times. It was during a time after the Gulf War, because that's where I basically joined the military, right after the Gulf War, and they had a different mindset. It was more of a, I'm not going to say toxic. It was more of a more indirect type of leadership, how they talk to you. Because if we were the army we're in now, it's more professional. Cursing is not tolerated. It's degrading. And that time, it was like 101. Hey, let's get after this counseling.
Yeah.
And you were called everything in the book. They were to the point where I went to basic. They would still hit you with the rim of their Yogi the Bear hat.
Oh, yeah.
Drill
Yeah.
sergeant hat. They tap you and push you around, poke you in the chest. And that was during that time. And it was crazy, man. The stigma for all those things were like high. You just never did it. I never went to sick call, even if I heard it.
Right.
Even if I felt like something was broke. The only time I went to sick call is I knew that if somebody saw me get hurt, they were like, "Hey, you need to go to sick call now," and then they take me. And that was not even the NCO. That was mainly like the young soldiers, around me, or the medic. So yeah, so when you talk about that, you just didn't do those things. The NCO and the first sergeant was like RoboCop, man.
Right.
Like he never showed weakness. It's just those things you never talked about, you know.
That's
Was it
crazy.
right?
It's
Probably not. And I
no,
think that's
probably
when
not.
that's where I was like, man, I don't want to be that weak guy, you know. So, but as I grew up as I began to climb the ropes, and I was like, that's stupid, man. Why would I do that? You know. So my mentality to my soldiers is like, if you're hurt, go see somebody. If you really have an issue, let's get you help. Because the thing is if you have those issues and you're thinking about them and no one's helping you, then the mission is not getting taken care of. So when I realized as a sergeant that if I help my soldiers get help and they take care of the problem, then they're focused at work. And I loved it. So that's what we made sure we did. And we shared that mentality. And as I continue to go forward, that become the 101. I'm like, dude, I don't know why you're impressing me. I'm not impressed because you're dealing with pain. I'm more impressed if you're able to say, hey, I need to be transparent. I'm hurt or I have issues. I need to see behavioral health or I need to go to sick call. That's awesome because now you're standing up for yourself.
Yeah, you're swallowing that pride and taking up for yourself because you're not only going to hurt yourself, your family, your friends, the mission, your unit. You know what I mean? You can't, like you said, if you want everyone tip top shape, you don't want people that are 20%, right? You want everyone, hey, we're all good to go. We're all got everything taken care of. But even when I was in 2007 to when I was at Fort Campbell, my first duty station, and it was kind of the same thing. No one went to sick call. You were probably labeled like, like weak or something like that. But in all reality, what you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. So for anyone that's out there that may be in the military or may know someone in the military, it's okay to get help. That's the moral of that little story that we just talked about. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't, because all that stuff is there for you. It's all free. It's all on the base. And if not, they can send you off the base so you can get help if that needs to be the case. But no, it's good that you had that aha moment. Like, what was it for you? Did you just think of it yourself? Was it another leader that sort of put it into you, or was it just you?
I was just looking at the soldiers and talking with them, you know, because I was actually in Italy at the time, and you know,
Okay.
sharing their problems. They're like, hey man, I have this problem, but I don't want to do it. I was like, man, take care of yourself. And that's when I realized when you allow them the opportunity to take care of themselves and the issue, they're more focused, and then they begin to respect you more. So I did it too. Transparency means that it's a glass. People can see everything you're doing, and you know you share it with everyone. Be open. uh it's just like I hate using the D in the PTSD because I don't think PTSD is a disorder. PTSD PTS is actually means that we're human. We're not
Yeah.
robots. When you
Yeah.
see trauma the way we did in 2003 and 2004, you know, you're gonna have some type of trigger. The
Yeah.
body, the mind is not built to see that type of, you know, things we saw. And I tell people it's not a disorder. It just means you're human. And now you have a part of you needs to revalidate that it's okay. You know, it's okay to get help. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay. It's just like PMCS. You know, when you PMCS your weapon, you're making sure that it operates properly in a time of need. Same thing with your
Right.
mind. You have to do that PMCS to make sure that it's operating when you need it to be the optimum, you know, at the high performance time. And it's just sharing that with people. And I think just leaders just don't feel comfortable sometimes saying that, you know, because they're the leader, like, oh, I got to be this tough guy. No, you don't. A great leader is having the courage to, you know, to stand up for the people and say, hey, you need to go take care of yourself.
No, absolutely right. Good for you for doing that. And it's a lot better if you're a leader, if you get down to your subordinates level, like you said, see it from their vision. Because once you were there, right, you were a private, a specialist. I mean, you have to be those ranks to become a sergeant. So once you get there, don't forget where you came from. Just, think about, and like you said, the people, your soldiers or your workforce, if you're a civilian, they're going to do a lot more for you if you stoop down to their level and just be human. Like you said, you don't have to become a RoboCop or something like that and pretend you're above the law when you make E5 like some people do and get all crazy. Just continue to lead from the front and set the example and be there for your soldiers. So good for you for doing that. I'm sure you've got a lot of great relationships with your past team members, and they all respected you for that. Because I mean, what's not to respect for someone trying to help someone else out? So,
So I got
when
a
you
question
start,
for you.
yes, sir.
So what did you enjoy about the military?
Man, I enjoyed even the black hole of where I grew up at, because I was working two jobs, and I knew those jobs weren't going to cut it. So I waited about 6 months after I graduated high school, and then I joined. I was in delayed entry, but I joined. I loved the camaraderie, man. I loved the ability to succeed. Like you said, you had endless opportunities. Like, you can go to boards, you can do PT, but mostly it's all up to you as a soldier, as an individual. I like that because I came from team sports. I like working as a team. Uh, I love the people I met and the mission that we got to do. I mean, I was a young NCO. I was 20 years old as an E5, and in Afghanistan, charged with running a Class 1 yard. That's a pretty big mission. Most 20-year-olds are in school eating ramen noodle and going to the football game on Saturday. We're over here in Afghanistan running a whole Class 1 yard, and you're in charge of something bigger than yourself. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And another aspect I enjoyed was, the benefits that came with it for serving your country, and raising your right hand and putting it all on the line. And you can reap the reward of that. And I still am, and I'm going to be able to do it for the rest of my life. Not only me, but my son. And if I ever have a family one day more than my son, they're all going to be taken care of for the time I spent in the military. So I think that's what I enjoyed the most.
I think the thing that I disliked about some of the things as I began to climb the ladder of success is I've seen a lot of leaders that were great at PT, but they weren't great at, delivering that leadership aspect.
Yeah.
So, I loved PT, and I dominated it every morning. I was a beast. But I also could tell you, if we had to do a job, I could listen to a truck, inspect a truck, and tell you what was wrong with it. And I would tell you what tools you would need so you didn't have to take the whole entire toolbox out, and you could do it right quick.
So you're an
That's what
expert in your craft, right? Expert in your
I
job
just
field.
loved it because I hated the fact that I'd seen some NCOs that couldn't do their job, but they could PT the hell out of PT. But then when it came
Yeah.
time to do their job, they really weren't great at it. I don't want to say suck at it or were not great leaders. They just they weren't taking the time to hone their craft as a mechanic as they did at PT. So that's why I always did the things I did. So people usually ask me, what drove you to do all those PT sessions and to love PT so much? One, I hated the tape test.
Yeah.
Two, I believed in the total concept of a soldier, and that was being one, PT. If I was a beast at it, I was going to be a beast at being a leader. I was going to be a beast at being a mechanic. Everything that I did, I tried to do above and beyond for me. I didn't
Absolutely.
compete. I didn't like competing. They're like, oh, you're competing for number one in school. No, I'm not. I'm competing to be better than I was yesterday. And that was the kind of mentality I grew up with. And each unit I went to as a first sergeant, that's what I told them. I was like, you're not competing with FSC Golf Company. You're competing with FSC Echo. That's us. You're competing
Right.
against yourself. How great in a year from now, when I assess you again, are you going to be above that mark, or are you going to be below it, or are you just going to be normal? Because if you're staying constantly at the same level, then you're not pushing yourself. You're not using the skill set. You're not using everything that was gifted to you, and you're not able to get to that next level. Because that's what it's all about. It's pushing yourself to the next level, and it's having pride when you do it. And that's
No,
what I look at
absolutely.
it when I'm able to look at someone and say, "Dang, a year ago he got here. That guy has pushed himself to the next level." But I'm not going to sit there and say it in front of everybody. Oh, Sergeant Mike got here and he's above this level. I may tell him
Yeah.
in a counseling, like, hey, you picked up your leadership skills, learn your job better, and it's called development. And we got to do it ourselves. That's our self assessment of ourselves, being able to see where we were and where we're at.
No, you're
So
right.
yeah,
And on that, it's like you got to get out of your comfort zone, right? And whether in your military or not, you got to leave that comfort zone to grow, or else you're never going to do it. And
yes,
you know, you gotta, like you said, it's I'm doing it for me. You on one side of the uniform, you get your last name, right? The other side, you got U.S. Army. Even if you're in the civilian world, you're gonna get paid from a company, right? But you're still working, you're still making a name for yourself, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. So like, do your best, try your best. Tomorrow's not promised. So we're up right now. Let's make the best out of it. Let's have the best conversation we can. Let's put all the information out there, or let's have the best day working in the motor pool we can, or driving a truck, or cooking, or whatever you do. Do the best you can, because most people don't want it. They're okay with being mediocre. But people, there's high performers, there's people that are mediocre, and there's people that just don't care. So I'm glad that you're a high performer, because you can tell, you've got after it your whole career. You're still getting after it. And I'm still trying to become a better man every day I wake up, because thank God we're here. And, tomorrow's not promised, man. Good for you doing that. What was some of the most memorable moments as being a sergeant major? What do you miss the most?
It's you said it earlier, is the camaraderie. But being CSM, it was about being able to meet new people and have an impact on soldiers.
Okay.
And I was always passionate about, soldiers and what we stand for. You got the Marines, you got the Air Force. I never, disrespected none of them. I think we're all great. We all have our purpose, just like everything else. A
Absolutely.
car has many components, and they all serve their purpose. And it's the same thing with us. But the soldiers, to be able to share my story and relate with them afterwards, when I was in that battalion, and I could stop and talk with soldiers and be open, and they would ask questions, and I had no problem giving the answers to them. I mean, the colonel made me laugh one day. My colonel there in the GSB and 10 Special Forces, his name was Mike Holland, and Colonel Holland. And one day he came in and he's like, "Wow, Sergeant Major," he's like, "Your your office area is always full of soldiers. You always have a line of soldiers. What do you think? Do you think we got a problem?" It's like, "Nah, sir. We have a problem is when they stop coming to see us. That's when we
There you
have
go.
a problem."
Absolutely, man. When they're
I told him,
scared to
"Sir,
talk to you.
yeah." I was like, "Sir, when there's a line of soldiers coming to see me, half of them is not problems. Half of them are asking me advice to what should they do, or what's their next step, and share." I was just honored to be able to share that with people. I never sat in my desk and say, "Hey, I can tell you the way to go." I tell them, I can just give you an advice. The decision and choices are up to you. I can sit here and tell you, do the do the S3 shop, go here, go here. But that's never going to guarantee it. And like I tell them, it's the decision, how you wake up every morning, how you bring that motivation and attitude to work every day, and what you put forth for you and the organization. Uh, but every day, it was about them. It was about pushing, making the place better than what I found it. And that was what I enjoyed about the Army, is meeting new people, building relationships, and being able to share my experience with
Okay.
soldiers. Do
Yeah.
I miss it? Hell yeah. Who wouldn't? I mean, I
Yeah.
spent over half my year, about 3/4 of my life, I spent in the military. That's three
Yeah.
decades. Uh, and I loved it, but now I get to watch my peers and some of the younger generation of leaders begin to move into the Army. And, I'm proud, but I still have that voice, and I still do the same thing. I inspire myself to inspire others. Yeah, I may be a has been, a CSM, the old dog, but the one thing they can't take from me, I'm still that guy they used to call Mega Hool, and it wasn't something saying that I was better than anybody. It was a lifestyle. It was
Yeah.
I was willing to do whatever it took. It's not what I was capable of, but what I was willing to do every day to lead the way.
Yeah.
That's
Lead
what
from
made
the
a
front. Let's
difference.
get it. Mega who?
And
Hey.
and I tell people, I'm like, if you want to leave a legacy is not something you leave behind. It's not a personal thing or an object. It's what you leave inside of people is what the
That's true.
legacy was. what people thought, because how you make what you said to them and how you made them feel, they give two crap about. Now, how I made them feel, that's where it makes a difference. Uh, so those are things that I loved about being at that level.
You missed the phone calls on the weekend?
Nah, but you know what? There is some trauma there for that, because it was.
That's PTS right there, man. I had talked to
Oh
another
man,
sergeant major. He said, "Shit, man." He said my family knew when my phone rang, the weekend was
it was
ruined.
time
I
to
said,
go.
"Oh man, yeah."
I tell you what, it's like the best way to describe that is like when you come back from a deployment and then you're sitting on your chair and you're looking for your weapon. All of a sudden you go, "Where's my weapon?" I'm the same way. I'm like, "Oh shoot, where's my phone?" Because
Yeah,
I had two phones. I had my personal and I had the work, and
yeah,
that work phone never stopped ringing, man.
yeah. The BlackBerry, right?
hmm I had an iPhone,
Okay.
new generation.
New Jet, yeah, they
They had these new
upgraded after a
iPhones.
while. Okay.
Yeah, I hated iPhones, man. Well, not hate. I just liked, I don't like apples, so I don't like applesauce.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that's wild. That's funny though. That's funny. It's always funny to hear. Like you always get a good reaction out of someone when you talk about the phone call. So that's good that you
Yeah.
laughed on it and said no, because no one wants to get called at 2 o'clock in the morning and say you
Well,
got Joe Schmoes at the MP station. Hey, first time you better get
I
on that.
used, I used to say it. First I'd begin with I'd answer like Sergeant Major, and then they'd be like Sergeant Major. I was like, hold on, is this personal or professional? He's like, oh, it's kind of personal. I'm like, all right, I understand. But if they were like, it's professional and somebody's in trouble, I'm like, oh man,
Yeah,
who is it and what company?
exactly. I can only imagine, man. So let's talk a little. Let's talk a little bit about when you started thinking about. When did you start devising a plan, an exit strategy about getting out the military? When that happened.
Well, I was thinking about retirement at first. It was actually it was towards the end of my time as sergeant major. I was thinking I was having issues with PT because I'd already had two prior surgeries, uh, and I'd hurt myself. And the doc had me on a temporary profile, no lifting, no wearing ACH, no body armor. And I was like, I'd already declined once to go to the sergeant major's assessment program because I was hurt, uh, and I was thinking about retiring. I dropped my retirement and it got declined. It was denied because of the way I said it. And they said, like, look, I submitted a second time and they said, hey, look, we'll approve your retirement, but it's P Corps plus 90. So it meant that in October, I gave up my battalion. So that means 90 days after that, I had to be out of the Army. So I was
Not a
like,
long
man, I'm
time.
about to get, yeah, I was like, man, I'm going to have to get out of the Army quick. But at the same time, the doc had called me and said, hey, I want to do another reassessment on you. I relooked at your file and you have issues. So I went back in to see the doctor, and he looked at my shoulder, both shoulders, and he's like, it is what I thought it was. He's like, I have to do two more surgeries on you. And at
Man.
that moment, that's when I said, well, I want to retire. And he's like, well, if you're going to retire, I think I need to med board you then, because you are pretty much, your shoulders are pretty much torn up. They'd already done a lot of on my biceps. They did my tendons on my biceps. They'd already cut some of my clavicles because they were tight after they put my shoulders together. So that at that time he's like, hey, I'm just gonna med board you. So they med boarded me. So my retirement didn't go through. So but they did a med board, and the med board took, because there's gaps. So if you're gonna do a med board in conjunction with transitioning out of the Army, there's a couple of things that you need to understand. Is one, once the med board goes in and it's approved and you start going through the process, that will over that will trump your retirement, or whichever one goes in first. If you put a retirement first and then you put a med board, then that's when they'll decide, hey, maybe the med board's better for him. But there's 4 gates. There's like 3 or 4 gates you got to meet to get into the med board, and one is first someone has to say you need to be med board, and then your PA for the unit has to submit that paperwork for you. They do it for you, and then you sign off on it and you send it up, and then it goes through a scrub. They look at your med board, and then they validate that you have that, and it's on your medical file. That's two. Your third one is it goes before a board, and then it meets if it was service related or not. And then once you get through that one, then they accept you on the fourth side, which is the actual med board process. When you get into the med board process, that's when they schedule you to get with the VA, and the VA schedule all your exams. Everything that you have wrong, they're going to annotate, and you'll see a physician, and they'll look at it, and they'll go through your file and see if there's anything in your files that matches the claims you have. That's why they say you should put everything in your medical records. Anything that if your back hurts, your foot hurts, your knees hurt, you have back pain, you hurt your back, you broke your leg, you broke your shoulder, any of that stuff. If it's in there, or if you come from a deployment and you feel like you have that PTS, you talk with somebody about it, and then that's it. It's still in your medical file. Therefore,
Right.
that meets the requirement for you to get evaluated. And once you get evaluated, they'll sit down and they'll evaluate everything you said was wrong with you with certain specialists like behavioral health. You'll go see dermatologists. You'll see a doctor. They'll go through everything. And then it's a waiting game after that, for the med board. And the VA will do their assessment, and then they'll assign a percentage. Once it goes up, they'll assign you the percentage. And then that's how they determine what your percentage is before you get out. And that's why the med board is so much quicker on you having the disability percentage before you retire or before you get out on a separation like that. Now
How was the process for you?
It was long. It was long and tedious because they allowed me to do mine here in Texas. So when I came home and moved my family here, because I moved I moved my family here right after I gave my battalion up.
Okay.
I moved the family and my household goods, and I paid for myself here to Texas. So while I was here and I began my terminal leave, because I was doing the CSP and then terminal leave, and the CSP was over like almost 100 and some days. So they sent me to the VA, and all the VAs just examined me here. It was long, man. It took I started that in January, and I was done by April.
Yeah.
By April or
A couple
May.
months. And CSB is Combat Support Battalion, or
What was that again?
is CSB something like a Combat Support Battalion, or something to do like a warrior transition unit or something?
Where was that at?
Oh, the one I thought you just said you had to go to like a CSB. I mean, I misheard you.
No, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean
My bad.
that.
Disregard that. My bad. That's my
No.
fault. But so it took you a couple months. What's like the biggest difference though if you get a med board compared to if you retire out? Like obviously you got your VA percentage before you got out, but are you still getting a retirement like check plus your disability then if you med board out?
Yeah, this is what I'm going to say. The difference between a retirement and a med board. Now, retirement, you're still going to do the same things. They require the same thing. You still got to do SFL TAP.
Okay.
You go through SFL TAP because you still got to do the SFL TAP, and then you got to develop. You start making your plans to get out, and then you do your capstone before you get out. Same thing with retirement. You do the same process. Now, where it changes is when you get your rating. The retirement. Now, the retirement date, you and the Army set that as you're ready to retire from the Army. And then you may have a percentage rating and you may not. But with the med board, before you get out, you will have your percentage, and the Army med board determines the date you get out. You don't. You have nothing to do with the date. They will tell you have to be cleared post. Everything's done with the unit, the battalion, garrison, and CIF, everything by this date. And you're able to take terminal leave from this date to this date and this last day. Like me, I went on terminal leave in, what was it, June July. I think it was July, and then August 21st was my last day. August 20th was my last day in the Army, and then August 21st was my first day as a civilian.
Okay.
So that's the way it works. Now, when you go through the retirement side, is what I hear is some people have their percentage, some don't, but you'll have to wait because you still do the evaluation. You still get evaluated through VA. You submit your claims, but now
Right.
you got a VSO. You got a VSO, but you have to request the medical files so that your VSO can actually check those out and submit your claims with you. That's if you have a VSO. You don't have to have one, but I highly recommend it because they're pretty much trained in helping you to develop the claim and make sure that you get that through, what
And
you
they're
need to do.
free. And they're there for that's their
Yes.
job, and they're free.
Yes.
And that's one of the things. Me personally, I dropped my own ball on that. I got out from Fort Carson, and I had supposed to go to a VA appointment, but when you go through SFL TAP and you go through your last couple of days or weeks or whatever it is to clear post, you sort of, if you're an NCO or maybe even a soldier, you're kind of on your own. You kind of go check the blocks and go do this, do that. And man, to be honest, I had a lot of stuff on my medical record, and I didn't even go to the VA appointment. I dropped the ball, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast is to put the information out there because I didn't do my own due diligence, nor did I have anyone in my corner trying to help me and say, hey, man, you really got to go to the VA appointment, make sure you get all your paperwork done because I wasn't going to have a rating even if I were to put my paperwork in because it was like a month out. You're not going to get a turnaround of a month, but you will get back pay, when you do the intent to file or you put your paperwork in. But yeah, you're right. You're right. Like, you can take care of that while you're in. And I think some people say you might maybe even a year or 18, maybe like a year out, you could start putting your claims out if you're gonna retire normally, right? You be able to go a year out. So that gives you ample time to get that percentage, back because it's going to be a lot easier to do it when you're in the military and you're still getting paid and you're still getting all your needs satisfied. Because don't wait like me, please, anybody. If you're listening to this, if you know anyone, don't wait till you're living with your mom and dad, or you could be homeless and you could have a percentage, but you don't have anything. It took me 5 years, but I went from 0 all the way to 100% permanent total. So it can be done. If you need to get a sleep study, get it while you're in the military. Get all that stuff taken care of while you're in, please. It's not like it's impossible when you get out, but it's going to be a lot harder. You're going to have to go to work. You're going to have obligations. You're going to make excuses. I don't have time to go to the VA. Oh, the VA sucks. That's bogus. You got to make time for yourself, take care of yourself. So, yeah, appreciate you sharing that, and I'm glad that you were on top of things. It's always good to hear people and say everything was done before you got out. Coming from being a command sergeant major, you probably had peers and people around you that were getting out, maybe that you talked to that sort of led you down the right path. But for someone that's a mid-career soldier, 8 years, 4 years, we might be surrounded by the same people. We might be at that predicament we might be under bad leadership at that time in our career, and it might make or break you. You might not even get that disability. But what was this SFL TAP like for you? Do you think it was good? Did you do the executive level TAPs because you were a CSM? How was that process for you?
I did everything. I mean, you got to get away from that title thing. And I think that's what I'm going to share with leaders is those senior leaders. Like, yeah, I know you like to be catered to and we like to go to these executive courses, but when you're
Yeah.
getting out, this is your life you're talking about. So you need to understand and get everything. You cannot be a green suiter, meaning that you're active duty and talking about getting out of the Army because you don't know what it takes because you haven't done it. So
Right.
therefore, you need to
Absolutely.
listen to the guys that have done it, that have transitioned out of the Army and go do those SFL TAPs. These are people that have normally some of these instructors are instructors that are retired themselves at high levels and they're there to share their story as well and also teach you SFL TAP per the Army's guidance. All right. So the Army has made it easy for soldiers. Well, not easy. They're trying to make it a little more simplistic for soldiers. They ran a pilot and I think it's still ongoing where you can drop your retirement 2 years out.
Okay.
So you can drop your retirement 2 years out. That's awesome because now you can start working on the things you need to do 2 years out, meaning that at 9 to 12 months out, you can actually drop all your paperwork and everything for your medical files and begin to prepare yourself to get out. And that's what the Army has done. I know they ran a pilot class before I was leaving the Army, and I know that in January I think they actually still were doing it. So I think it may still be going on. I'm a little disconnected from that right now because I haven't seen it, but I know that I've read about it, that in
Okay.
January of this year they pushed it through, and they were trying to see what soldiers brought to the table about it. All right. Now, when you go to SFL Tap, they're going to give you so much information. You need to pay attention to it. One, with finances. Understand that finance, whether you believe it or not, you will not get paid on your last check. You will get the first of the month, the 15th, you won't get nothing. And that is because they are doing an audit to your account. All right. When they audit your account, they're trying to make sure that you met all your service obligation, each contract, and no pay is owed to the Army or to the you. And they're ensuring that all the leave you had is either been used or you were settled, or if you sold any, that it adjudicates and you're able to get that money. Now they got two different payouts. When you get out of the Army, 10 days later from that date when you separate, uh, and you're no longer active duty, you will get a payout. You're not going to get all your money. You're going to get a portion of that check. And then that's a 10-day payout. And then there's a 20-day payout where if they're completed with your audit, you'll get your last paycheck. And if you sow your leave, then you'll get the leave money, whatever it is. But those are the dates. There's 10 days out and there's a 20-day out. All right. I asked those questions as I was transitioning, and I called DFAS and I was like, what is the big idea about this audit? What are we doing? And those are the things they shared with us. It's just adjudicating you and adjudicating the Army that either party doesn't owe anything to each other. And then at the end of the day, you'll get your money. Now you got to understand that the Army has to pay you first before the VA can. That's
Okay.
just written in stone. So you have to receive your first retirement check before you can receive your first disability check.
Okay.
All right. And that you need to understand that. And like I said, it all falls down into the right place. So plan. The thing is preparation. That's the first step you need to understand. If you've decided to retire or you decided to ETS, it doesn't matter. You're still going to go through all the process. Uh, just make sure you plan. Now, SFTAL gives you a lot of stuff. They talk about changing because you won't have a CAC once you retire. You'll get a retirement. You'll get that big boy ID card. So therefore, you don't have a CAC unless you're a GS level employee. So your CAC will no longer be able to act. You will not be able to use to access anything within the government with the CAC card. So you have to do passwords. I advise you to get passwords for everything from MyPay, for va.gov. Do everything you can. Anything that got login or ID me, create all those passwords so that once you get your ID card, you're able to access whatever government site you need to find out information about either benefits or trying to get NCOERs for a job or some type of profile you're trying to build. So just understand that passwords are going to be important for you. And then the next thing is understanding that when you leave the Army, you have 190 days before they cut off your medical. All right. And you will be paying if you're going to add your wife and your kids. So you need to understand that as they talk about insurance as you transition out, how much it's going to cost you. There's different ones. There's a TRICARE Prime and there's an alternate. Uh, so just pay attention to those things and understand which one you want to select. Many go with I went with TRICARE Prime. I got a place right down the road that takes it, so I'm able to get in there quickly and do what I need to do. Uh,
Okay.
the next thing is going to be the benefits for your spouse. The SBP for you guys that are retiring is you're going to have to go through transitions. And the one place you're going to have to go to is, I think it's MPD, or I can't remember. It's retirement, MPR, military retirement services. And they're going to talk to you about SBP, and that's the insurance. In case something happens to you, your spouse will get a portion of that money of your retirement. All right. And if you want to do it, you have to pay into that. All right.
Okay.
So those are people need to understand that and pay attention to that, because you're going to have to choose regardless. And they're going to ask you, which one do you want to do? And so pay attention during the SFO TAC because they talk about that, and they let you know that. And then your capstone, you have to ensure that you do your capstone because you will not retire without your capstone. They have to have that in hand and be able to process that paperwork.
Okay.
And so the education portion of it, the VRE, let me tell you, if you leave the military and you get any percentage, you still are allowed to use the VRE.
Yeah, it's got to be 10%. Just got to be 10%. That's
10%. Yeah.
it.
10% up to 100. If you got 100, let me tell you, guys, a lot is open for you.
Oh
But
man, life changing, man.
Yeah, VRE will pay for your college, will pay for trade schools. Like you had said, I earned my two bachelors, a master's in the Army, and now I've done the Scrum, project management, Lean Six Sigma, Agile professional. I mean, I got my CDL, my GI Bill paid for that. And I'm getting ready to go back to school. I'm going to go back and get my diesel tech license and get recertified in a lot of stuff I did in the Army. And then I'm going to get my welding certification, everything from straight rod, TIG, MIG, plasma cutter, CNC. I'm doing all that. And that's through VRE. And that's just applying for it. And understand you're going to be assigned a counselor that will look at you and tell you what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. And you got to think about what is your disabilities, and is that going to have an issue with what you're trying to do? And that's what I tell everybody. First, research, inform yourself, know what you want to do, and then contact the VRE, and do the application. Because if you go to them ready to do something, you already got it planned out, you know where you're going to go and when you want to start, it makes it so much easier for them. They're not like researching for you.
Yeah.
So just be well planned and well versed on what you want and what you're trying to do. Just like
How'd you
anything
hear about
you've
it?
done. Because I was getting ready to use that, because being in Texas is very veteran friendly, and they do a lot for their veterans. I was getting ready to try to do that through the state, and then that's when they told me like, hey, you're 100% disabled and you have multiple disabilities, so you can actually apply for the VRE. You don't have to use your Montgomery GI Bill. So I was like, wow, okay, I'll do that. And so that's what I did. I went and did the tour of the campus, UTI, there here in Fort Worth, or it's Irving, I think. And I did a tour of that and sat down with them. We went over the paperwork, and then I sent the paperwork to VA, and I'm just waiting for the final approval. I've got through all the stages, and I'm supposed to start school next month.
Okay.
But and at the same time, when you use the VRE, you're also going to get that base pay, or
Yes,
I mean
sir.
the BAH for E5 with dependent, which is
Yep.
it's about 2,400 here in Fort Worth.
Oh, I
So
didn't know it was that high in Texas. That's pretty good, man.
yeah, man,
Tax
I looked
free.
it up.
Tax free, baby.
Tax free,
Let's
and
go.
that's just additional funds that allows you to go to school and be able to help you while you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, just look into it. They'll do many things. You could do MHE. They'll pay for any transportation school. They'll pay for college. They'll pay for trade schools. You name it. Do not limit yourself. Ask questions and look into it. Talk to the VA, and they'll help you. And it's important. But if you actually get your VA disability and it's 10% above as well, you also look at trying to be tax exempt. You go through your state and go and see the tax assessor there in your state, and you can fill out the homestead form, and they'll look through your file, and then they'll actually help you to waive some of your taxes. For me, it's all waived. They waived my whole year's taxes because I'm disabled, and it's very simple. All you have to do is just submit it. They approve it. Once they approve it, from that date on, they stop assessing your taxes. But you also have to push it to your mortgage company here in Texas, because Texas, they keep your taxes in your escrow. So that's one thing that you can use. The next thing is when you register your vehicles, you don't have to pay that taxes on your vehicles, because now you're, like I said, a disabled veteran. You're able to just pay the fee for the application. That's it. So like $5 or $10, and then the rest is on the state. So
Yeah.
that's another part of benefits.
I'm glad that you found the VRE helpful, because Dude, it's great, man. I mean, I started using my GI Bill, and I heard about VRE from a retired warrant officer. I was at 30% of the time, so I was eligible. I want to apply. What do you want to do? They people say it's leg work. Like, dude, we did way more harder work in the military than printing off a couple pieces of paper and figuring out what you want to do with your life. That's not work. It's called a plan. Just do it. Like you said, what do they say? Like piss poor, like preparation. Whatever that saying is. Like you're not going to get nothing good if you have bad preparation. So the VRE was great, man, because it's what I want to do. Okay, no problem. You're approved or denied. And obviously, if you have disabilities, they're not going to want you to go in the same workforce because they want you to get away from your disability so you can become a successful member back to society. It's a job placement. It's not an educational benefit. Some people think it's an educational benefit, which essentially it kind of is, but they're looking for people to get back into the workforce. It's not like the GI Bill. Another good thing about VRE is once you're done with that, you actually get 2 more months of BAH as long as you apply for 5 jobs a week. So, you're going to get put to another counselor. And then as long as you fill out your job log, you can get BAH for another 2 months, man. So while you're looking for the job, it's not like the GI Bill. You go to school and then after it's up. No. And also VRD, you can get a laptop, you can get a printer, you can get special equipment that you might need if you have disabilities. And it's great, man. I mean, they even have another track that people don't know about that like you said, you got to do your own research. It's self-employment track. If you have a business plan, they have grant money. They don't like to talk about it, but like you said, it all depends on the counselor. They're the gatekeeper almost. Some of them act like it's their money, while some other ones might be ready to give you everything that the VA has. So it's all a case-by-case basis, but don't let that discourage you from getting what you deserve, because we deserve these benefits. They're there for us, but you have to know what you want rather than going in there and having them try to figure out what you want to do with your life. You figure it out and then go with them with the plan. It's going to make it a lot easier. I mean, coming from someone like me, I worked like 12 different jobs, man, before I started using my GI Bill and VR&E. And I was making garbage, $13-14 an hour and working in kitchens and all that stuff. And I was like, dude, I got to go back to school. And like you said, I was getting like at the time, a couple of years ago, it was like $2,200. That was more than I was making going to work 40 hours a week. You know what I mean? So maybe that's a good plan to use like when you get out and, have it lined up instead of thinking about going to work at a job that you might not want to be at. So I'm glad that you got value out of that. The other thing I wanted to touch on real quick is, Florida's the same thing. If you're 100% permanent and total, you got no property tax on your primary residence. So with that being said, even at 10%, you might have somewhat of a homestead. I think it might be 5 or 10,000. Don't quote me on it, but you still get something for being a disabled vet. But that's going to add up, man. As our properties go up every year, appreciate. You're never going to have to pay that tax on your primary residence. And if you were paying it for a while and you do all that paperwork, send it off to your mortgage company, which, like you said, you're going to get that escrow money back. You know what I mean? So it's not a bad thing, dude. I just got a check not that long ago because I moved in my other house and I got like a $2,300 check back for escrow. So can't go wrong getting money back. Like you said, for the DMV, Florida's like $7 a year, I think, instead of 40. So you can't go wrong. You can park in Florida. I don't know about in Texas. You can park at the airport for up to 45 days for free, any public airport. So, dude, like you said, the 100% permanent total is, dude, a whole nother Richter scale, man. It just opens up so many more benefits. And, if you have the stuff in your records, you deserve it. No one's telling you to go lie and make fibs up and say, hey, do this, do that. But, someone like yourself, you're in the military for three decades. You're going to have the wear and tear. You're going to have all that stuff in your record as long as you take care of yourself while you're in. And then that's what you're going to have for yourself and your family when you get out. So I'm glad that you've done it all, man, and you got it going for yourself, which is great. What else did you find valuable, once you got out? And actually, hold on, I want to rewind real quick and go back. Something that really stuck out to me, like what you told me last night, was that you kept your foot on the gas when you were getting out. You were doing things that no one else wanted to do. Now, for someone that's in right now, what would you tell them to sort of try to churn their mindset into that gear?
Man, like I said before, and you said it, not taking the foot off the gas. Everybody wants to retire and try to slow down. The thing is once you start slowing down, you get into this comfort zone, and then you become to be this stagnant person. Excuse me. Because
Yeah.
once you leave the army, nobody cares. I'm sorry to tell you, but nobody cares.
Yeah.
Once you're gone, you're gone. You do what you want, you do what you got to do, but at the end of the day, nobody's going to force you to do anything. But if you do not take your foot off the gas, the biggest thing is I'm going to tell people right now, if you're listening to this and you want to know something important, this is it. Self-assessment. You have to do a self-assessment. Back in the days, you had a diploma and you had a college degree, whether it's associates or a bachelor's or a master's, that put you inside the door and able to talk to people. Nowadays, they don't even do that. All right, diploma is just a piece of paper saying hey, congratulations, you did something that you were supposed to do. A degree will maybe get you close to the door and a knock. Before it opened doors, it doesn't no more. All
Yeah.
right. So when I tell you to don't take your foot off the gas, is I know it. I want to relax too. I want to be that guy that enjoys retirement. But at some point, uh, you're gonna get tired of doing that. And then what have you done that's gonna give you the ability to be able to push yourself and be able to do whatever you want? And that's you being able to, you know, right now that you're already at that full stride and running, go ahead and just finish some more classes, things that are, project management. Those are big right now in this, in, US corporate America right now. Project management, operational manager, uh, agile scrum, the lean six sigma, huge. Everybody's asking about lean six sigma. They're asking about the kaizen, the scrum, uh, supply management. It's all about right now. Logistics is a big portion of what's hiring out there right now. Now, if you're IT, that's another thing. So those are the things I'm talking about. Don't slow down. Is once you get out of that position and you're able to focus on you, is I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm saying, hey, if you want to get out there and be competitive and compete with, the regular civilians in corporate America, you're gonna have to have more than just a degree. You're going to have to show that you have some type of furthering certification that will put you in front of everyone. I went out and got my CDLA, and you know what I did for 4 months? I went out and I learned about it. I rode with my nephew and seen what that life was about. And so then that's when I was like, hey, we're going to buy some trucks. Let's go buy some trucks. And I found an investor that invested in me, and we got some Freightliners and some flatbeds, and that's what I do. I do traditional flatbed, and I got contracts with oil company out of Houston, Texas,
Yes.
and SpaceX, and we work for Meta. What is it? Meta, Facebook. In
Okay.
Temple, Texas, they're building a 364-acre facility, and we were delivering stuff to them. And those are things I'm looking at and thinking about, uh, and not just being complacent. I shifted from being a senior leader and focusing on the mission in front of me, fighting America's wars and preparing America's men and women for the next war. I had to shift now over to what am I going to do to be successful now, not soldiers, but for family members and grandkids and my wife and my family. Uh, and so now I'm shifting to that now. And then my kids begin to ask me, my grandkids, like, Grandpa, I wanna join the military. I was like, fine, let's come and stay with Grandpa for 2 or 3 months, and then let's see what I can make you decide what you want to do. Woke them up in the morning, did PTs, did ruck marches, talked to them about education, showed them the SVAB, helped them out on the SVAB, and then that decided to be the Marine Corps. So my granddaughter joined the Marine Corps. And then the next thing I did was my son. My son like, Dad, I'm gonna join the Army. I was like, let's go. And now that's what I'm doing for him. He's looking to join as well. But don't take your foot off the gas. Continue to do the things you do. There's this stigma that a SARM major in the United States Army only survives 5 years. And that's only
Mm.
because you know why?
To take the foot off the gas.
Take the foot off the gas. They stop doing PT. They stop living. They begin to settle into complacency. And it's true. It's out there. The statistics show that, once you drop all that stress, your stress levels go low. You stop doing PT or you stop doing anything that lives. 5 years later, you've gained 30, 40, 50 pounds. And now you're out of shape and you got high cholesterol. You're about to have a stroke. Do something for yourself. Keep your foot on the gas. Keep moving forward. The one thing that I did do that I'm not going to change right now is this. I let the one thing that I had to do every day is shave. So now I have allowed that to grow. This is confirmation that I've allowed the army to go. All right. And yeah, I
Yeah.
said I never would own that DD 214 alumni, but hey, I gotta sell it to myself. I'm no longer in the army, but I still, share the experiences, the shared hardships I had, the adversity that the army is the best place that allow you to show your capability and seize the opportunity. And all you have to do is show up and
Yeah.
just try. And
Yeah.
uh, and I tell soldiers, the mentality is different. I don't like it when I hear old school leaders, and I mean old school like old veterans talking about like, oh, the military is going to the dumps with this new generation. I was like, you wouldn't last in my time or my era. You're right, they won't. They wouldn't. But I don't think they would make it in this era either, because this is
Yeah.
a more technical, more professional, and more human dynamic army. We have to let go of the past. I don't see dinosaurs walking the earth. Do you?
Nah.
Because they've moved on. They've moved on. I don't see us fighting today's war with old school tactics from the Cold War. It won't work. Or you try to use a muzzle loader to fight today's war, you're not gonna make it, man. So
Yeah.
let like me, I like sharing motivation and experiences, but I'm still a spectator now. I'm a veteran, but I'm not going to tell you how to run the army. I'm going to tell you what's wrong or right. I ain't tell you why you got a beard or you're a piss poor leader because you got a beard. Man, a
Yeah.
beard does not dictate what kind of leader you are.
Absolutely
Be
not.
quiet, sit down, enjoy the show because your time is coming past. So that's what I say to veterans out there. Leave the army alone, man. They're going through their struggles. Nobody's over here telling you how awful your life is. Let these soldiers do what they got to do. I remember the generation before me said we wouldn't do. Oh, if y'all go to combat, you're not going to make it.
That's
i
wild.
had I went to Bosnia, Kosovo. I went to Iraq war and Afghanistan. And guess what? We did fairly good, although I didn't like the outcome. But I think we went out and we did more than what they thought we could do. And I think this generation of soldiers can too. Let the army redefine themselves. Let them find their path, just like anything else in the world. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So I want to touch on a couple of things real quick in regards to starting the trucking company. Well, did you ever think you were going to do that? Was that part of the plan of getting out the
man,
military?
that was never part of the plan. That was one of those things that uh,
Frago.
just out of the blue, man. It was like shots fired, and I'm like, it happened with my nephews because my brother's a truck driver. He's been doing it for about 10, 11 years. My other nephew is a truck driver. He's been doing it for about 15 years. And then the oldest nephew is a truck driver. He's been doing it for 9 years. So, I seen them driving around, coming back home, leaving. So I'm like, man, let me give this a try, and I gave it a try and I liked it, and so I was like, man, I'm not going to pay for it. The army is. So I went through my GI Bill, got 2 months of my GI Bill, and I went to school here in Fort Worth, Texas. I went to a awesome, awesome trucking school. It's called C1 Trucking. And if you're in Texas or you're residing in Texas and thinking about being a trucker or want to do CDL, your CDLA and get certified, uh, C1 Trucking is the place to go. They are very thorough. The director of the program is a retired E7, I think First Sergeant. He's a retired First Sergeant, 88 Mike, and he runs that thing just like the Army would. And they hit all your touch point. I love the aspect because they did the whole crawl, walk, run phase. You do the classroom, and then you do the inspection because you got to do your PME, and then you go over to the driving range, and then you go out and learn how to drive. But no, trucking was not something that I saw, but I did it and I fell in love with it. It was a challenge. I went out on the road for a little while. and I enjoyed it. It was almost similar to being in the Army because one, you get the mission,
Right.
you get that frago, you get the frago, you got to do secure this much equipment, move it from here to here. These are your gates, and this is your time to pick up. This is your time to SP, uh, and that's mostly what it was about. So, and then when you're out there, you sleep in your cab. It was almost like being in the field, man. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth outside with a bottle of water. I was like, man, this feels like when I was deployed.
You just need to have
You
that
know,
2-quart canteen on the side, man. You'd be good to
yeah.
go, like old school. Hey, but the good thing about a trucking business, no IEDs, man.
No
You know what I mean?
IEDs. Yep.
Safe. You're doing it safe. So where do you
But
see yourself going? Go ahead.
I hired a couple. I hired a Marine guy.
Okay.
He was a mechanic too. Yeah. So I got veterans driving my trucks, and then my two nephews. So they run the portion of the company. But yeah, it was awesome, man. I mean, it's it's an ongoing learning process. Maintenance, just like the Army, maintenance is key. Maintaining your equipment and just regular PMCS.
Like you're in the motor pool Mondays, man. You can't go wrong. Like
Yeah.
you still carrying forward some of the stuff that you love to do while in the service, and now you're an entrepreneur doing your thing. So good for you. Like veterans make great entrepreneurs, and they say back in like after World War I, most of the U.S. small businesses were owned by veterans, but now we're at a point in the life where there's barely any small businesses owned by veterans. Like, who's a better business owner than a vet? We self starters. You got high mission standards. You've done all this stuff while in the military. You could transfer all those skills like you did, and you could keep going, and you can create generational wealth or a successful, profitable business, and have control of your life. So good for you. And I was going to ask you, what's your goal and your mission for like the next couple of years? Where do you see your business going? Where do you see some bottlenecks? And ultimately, where do you want to be with that?
So right now with the business, so it's pretty much I'm not gonna say I'm booming because right now the rates in the industry are low.
Okay.
Uh, it all depends on this next election.
Okay.
But I think if it goes right, I think everything will start panning itself out better. But with that, I want to continue the trucking company. The reason I'm doing the diesel tech uh, is to actually begin my other half of the business, is beginning the actual maintenance side to it, owning trucks and be able to work on them, and then the extra time you start bringing in other trucks and helping them out, uh, and providing service to the public, to other 18 wheeler operators or other owners. Because I got a couple of friends that own their companies. They're huge. They got like 40 trucks. And they're
Wow.
like, hey, Estrada, if you open your maintenance shop, I'm bringing my fleet to you. So I already know that my maintenance side will be successful. So that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to operate the same way I did in the Army. I'll have that schedule maintenance and unschedule, meaning that you can schedule a timeline when you want to drive in at a certain date and time and you want your oil change, a DOT inspection, or you need something done major to your vehicle. That's the schedule maintenance. And the unscheduled maintenance are those guys that break down or having issues and have to pull in. That's the unscheduled side. And then once I could get that going, then probably hire some more people out there that are military that are getting their diesel tech license and bring them in and help me start running this and kind of like pull away a little bit and then have that master mechanic run the shop. And then I want to begin a recovery side where I can go out and recover trucks and have a mobile mechanic shop where you have the welding machine, the generator. You could do tires. You could do on the spot corrections and fix vehicles. And then I want to have two tire trucks where you go out and all you do is go fix tires out on the side of the road. And then
That's a
put
good
those
business
guys.
going. Mobile tire repair, and same as the other
Yeah,
one you
two.
just said.
Yep, because that's one of the things that I noticed while I was driving was the amount of money people make on that. And it's not about money for me. I like to chop that down some, be that guy that I'm not trying to drain that operator owner of that truck. Because
Yeah.
as an operator owner, one, you're paying for the insurance, you're paying for the fuel, you're paying for the maintenance. And at the end of the day, you're left with a small amount of money. And that's what I felt, and I'm like, be able to charge somebody like decent, not a whole arm. Hey, I got to cut your arm off and your leg, you
Yeah.
know, to just
Nah.
do this. And
Yeah.
I think they'd be
Be
successful.
affordable.
Yeah. But that's what I'm looking at. That's where I'm rolling with that. And at the end of the day, within 5 to 10 years, it's me just being on the sideline, providing, that experience or helping decide what needs to happen. No more hands-on, just knowing that if I want to, I can, but I'm not. I'm gonna allow those people I put in those situations to take control.
But that's how you get people to buy into the mission, man. You make them feel like that they have a say so and that they matter.
Autonomy.
And yeah, absolutely. And you might need to tap back into Voc Rehab and see, or VRE, Veterans Readiness and Employment, and see if you can get that grant money, man. The worst thing they're gonna do is tell you no, but you go in there with a solid business plan, you never know what's gonna happen. You might get 25, 50,000, man. So yeah,
Yeah.
what did you think you were gonna do when you got out though? That I mean, like, what was your plan A? You got your retirement, you got your disability, you got your 9 kids, you got your wife. Did you think you're obviously not to slow all the way down, but like, what did you think you were gonna do before you started getting into the truck driving?
Honestly, truck driving was not even in the
Right.
plan. I was planning to, because I was already working with different companies. Look, I'm gonna be honest. When I was in the Army, I also had a secondary job. I always had a secondary. I was a manager for AutoZone for about 7 years, and they transferred me wherever I was going. I was a manager in Iowa. I was a manager in Hood. I was a manager in different areas. Uh, and I just did that for so long. And then I became I worked for FedEx and Amazon. I worked for Amazon for a year, and then they were working with me to transition to be a operational manager, and that was after I retired. But that didn't pan out well. I was not selected to take that job, and they pretty much told me that, hey, you can apply later. And I was like, man, I did all this work for y'all, and that was the whole reason to prepare me, was to be an operational manager, and they didn't do it. Uh, and so I tried FedEx just to see how they worked, and I did that for 3 months, and I liked it, but it was not something I could see myself doing very long. So I let it go. I just tell them, hey, at the time, I had to get back to base a lot, so I was like, you know what, I can't do this. So I quit that job. I put my notice and just left it. But that's where the trucking company came in, and that's where it came from. I saw myself being an Amazon operational manager for a long time, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else because I was already, preparing, and they were training me for it. And the reality is, sometimes what you plan is not in the picture, and you got
Yeah,
to be versatile
absolutely.
and be able to. You got to be versatile and be able to be able to shift gears to something else. And that's where that keep your foot on the pedal. Sometimes things won't work as planned, and you just move to the next plan. I never have a plan B. I just go with the moment and see what I can find. And trucking was it. So that's what I'm looking at right now. Uh, Good stuff.
Plan A never is going to be the one that might pan out. I mean, I had a job going to Alaska working as a head chef on an oil rig, but I didn't know I was going to get, I have a kid on the way after that. So that plan A is out the window. Hey, can't live in Alaska if I got to move back to Florida. So just have a couple, maybe if you're getting out, have a couple things, on the back burner, not just put all your eggs in one basket and diversify a little bit. Think about maybe, hey, if this doesn't work out, this is what I might do. Hey, maybe I'll go to school at night and get that money coming in. So if I don't want to work at this job, I don't lose all my income. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's funny how things work out, but at the end of the time, you improvise, adapt, and overcome, and just keep making it happen, man. Right? Mindset is key.
Yeah.
I'm sure your family was happy for you to retire, and you got a lot more. You got to spend a lot more time with them. So that's great. I just want to open it up to you real quick before we go into some like rapid fire, like fun questions about the military. But while we're still on a serious note here, what if you could say something to the audience or someone that may still be in the military, coming from a retired sergeant major, and not even that, just coming from Herman, what would you tell them? What would you give a little pep talk
You
to? What
know,
would the advice be?
you know what? It doesn't matter if it was CSM, Estrada, or Herman, or Mega Hull, they are all the same people.
Right.
I never role played nothing. You know, who I was in the Army is who I am every day in my life. So, you know, whatever people think is number one is I've always said it, you know, when you look at my Facebook account, I friend everybody, you know, I let everybody see it that I know that's military. And and I talk about it at the end. It's called Lead, Motivate, and Inspire. You know, it's about leading soldiers. It's about leading yourself. And sometimes the leader is not the one being led. Is You know, the leader is not leading all the time. Sometimes the leader is being led because we're so caught up on our position and stature or where we're at in life that we never want to tell people like, man, I just learned something, you know, from these people or these soldiers or
Yeah.
this group, you know. And I want to tell people, be transparent, and we're all human. There's no secret. All right. Everything you're learning, somebody else is learning. Every school you get, we all get it. All right. The only difference is whatever career path you take, whether you're a mechanic or analyst for the, you know, military intelligence side or whatever. You know, be humble. Be enough to understand that you're replaceable. Everyone is
Yeah.
replaceable. Now
Yeah.
they can replace you, but if you're truly honest and you do the things you do, not everybody can be like you. There's only one you in the way you operate. So if you do everything right and you do it because you love it, that will never be able to be replaced. But some leaders, they get caught up on this whole role that it's so easy to replace them. And it's sometimes even better because you're stuck on yourself. Take the time and look in the mirror. That's the person that needs to do the change. That's the person that needs to be competitive with you. That's the person you need to dictate, are you doing the right things? And that's the thing that I talk about the most is, you know, do the things for yourself first. You can't lead people until you lead yourself.
It's
Uh,
true.
and the decision and the choices you make will catch up to you. You know, because there's times that leaders wake up and they'll come to work like, I don't know how I wind up on this path. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, well, what do you know? I know you're in the path you're on right now through your decisions and your choices. That's
It's
what
true.
happened. So understand that everything you do has a ripple effect. Uh, People, when you talk about people readiness development, if people are the most important thing in the army, that's the most precious resource, then take care of them.
Yeah.
You know, if it's just like your vehicle, when you don't do the PMCS, it's not ready. Sometimes you realize you try to take off and it has problems. There's no different than a soldier. If you take care and you take the time to take care of your soldiers and you're always making sure that they're ready and you're taking care of their family, yeah, because you sign up, it's a family thing. If they got families, that's your responsibility too, to ensure that they have everything they need. And when it's time to take that soldier to do whatever you need them to do, they're ready to do it because you've taken the time to prepare them. And like I say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready because you're
That's
ready.
true.
All right. And people understand, you know, those are things that I've continued to share throughout my career. And it's just, you know, do the things you got to do and do them the way that you know that they got to be done. You know, it's like if we go to war tomorrow, you don't train to go to war in a soft environment. You train to go to war in the same environment, meaning that you're going to have everything on your iPro, your ACH, uh, your kit, your weapon, everything. So train as you fight. Uh, so
What
those
about
are
your
things
what
that
about your PT belt?
no, that's old
I'm
school,
messing with,
man.
I'm messing with you, man.
That's actually was never a PT belt when you get to it. It was a PT vest. We had the small PT vest
Yeah, yeah.
back
Back
in
in the day.
back in back in my day. Yeah, but the belt came later.
I'm messing with you.
But
Uh,
nah,
well, all
but
right.
there's some things.
No, go ahead.
No, those are just some of the things I'd share with people, you know, and taking care of soldiers at the end of the day. It's that readiness part is allow soldiers to learn through their own mistakes, empower them, and allow them to own their good or their bad, you know, don't be so quick to scorn people so quick. Like, oh, you fucked this up, or excuse, you
Are
know,
you good?
it's it's not like that, man. It's about understanding that they're human. We make mistakes. The biggest part is what did you learn from it, and what will you do to prevent it? Those are the most important things. And that's how you build great leaders.
Absolutely, man. All great advice and coming from a well-seasoned veteran from himself. So, what's your favorite duty station?
Oh man. Everybody talks about 82nd Airborne Division. It's not my favorite. I mean, I love the 82nd because they're airborne and
Not
everything.
Vietnam,
But
no, man. Come on.
my my favorite duty station was the 173rd Airborne Brigade
Okay.
out of Vicenza, Italy. Because I arrived to Italy back in 1999, December, prior to uh, the 173rd being uncased. I was selected to go to Italy to stand up a portion of the 173rd because now they're huge. But yeah, I was there in 2000 when they uncased the colors, and 173rd was reflagged as an active unit uh, organization. And I love that place, man. That's where I made sergeant. That's where I did my first true combat deployment. Uh, that's where I learned what true leadership was about. I met some great leaders that now are either in the Army at senior levels, executive levels, and are either out of the Army.
Okay.
So, and I love that place. And I have my youngest daughter is from Italy. She was born in Italy.
Not bad. I was only in Germany. Germany was nice though. Europe always good time. What was your favorite school that you went to?
The Sergeant Major Academy, USASMA, NCOEL, the
Would you say
Mountain Major
class of 69? Did you say you were
class
in?
of 69. Yep,
Go.
class of 69.
How long?
uh,
Hey, how long is that school?
that school is a PCS move. It was almost a year. And the reason it was almost a full year is because I volunteered to do the international student, uh, where we have soldiers from international unit actually, I think mine was from Indonesia.
Okay.
His name was Harifa. Man, awesome individual, very, very disciplined army. But let me tell you, he looked so young. I was thought I was gonna meet this guy that looked like an old man or my age. Here's this 20-year-old looking guy that just gets off the plane, and I'm like standing there, and I see people passing, and then he stands in front of me like, "Are you Herman?" I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "I'm Harifa." I'm like, "No way, man! You look like you're 19." And he's like, "No, I'm
He got
Harifa."
battlefield promoted, man. He got battlefield promoted like the old days, dude, from private to sergeant
Nah,
major in like a couple days, man.
man, he was young, but I enjoyed him. We had so much fun. He didn't do PT with me. He did only twice. And after he's like, "I'm not doing PT with you no more."
You
He's
broke
like,
him off.
"You're crazy."
You broke him
he's
off,
like,
man. It don't, yeah.
and he's like, "Who does 20 miles every day?" He's like, "I only do 3. That's it. I'm good."
Man, you doing more in a day than he does in a couple of weeks, man. Doubling up.
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah, but I got
favorite?
to
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna
No,
no, go ahead. You start.
I met so many great leaders. I'm telling you, right now I have fun watching most of my peers in the army. They're taking over the army,
Okay.
and I'm so glad. I congratulate them, and it's just fun watching the army through their eyes as I just sit here and watch them take over great organizations every day. So yeah, that was the best part.
What was your favorite MRE?
It's old school, man. It used to be the
T-Rats.
had this chicken and rice.
Okay.
They had this chicken and rice. I used to take the chicken and rice with the jalapeno sauce or the cheese, and I warm them all together, and then I put it inside there. Oh man, it was like chicken. It was awesome.
Like gore. That's like 5-star meal, man. What about your favorite DFAC food?
Defect, man. I
And
mean,
best DFAC. What was your best DFAC you ever ate at? And what was your favorite meal from there if you did get to go? I mean,
man, let
I
me
know
tell
you're in
you, if you're in Fort Carson, Colorado,
yes,
and you have
sir.
not been over to the compound, Rochelle Warrior Restaurant now. That is the best place I've ever ate at, man, in my whole entire career.
That's
That
a
place.
special.
Other yeah, that was my last that was my last Warrior restaurant that was under my command. They won so many. I'll tell you the last thing in my career, because I've won a Amy before, the Army Maintenance Excellence. Oh, I won it when I was in Korea. But to watch my organization win, we were the only organization to win the best motor pool, the best SSA, the best dining Warrior restaurant, and then the best military intelligence company. Man,
Nice.
4 awards in 1 year. Four.
I'm good.
Uh, it was crazy, and those are DA level, DA Army level competitions. And to win those were, man, it was unprecedented. I mean, it was just crazy. Uh, and some of those guys didn't even want to do it. They were like, "Sergeant Major, I don't want to do it." I was like, "Dude, I'm trying to help you build a winning mentality.
Right.
Get past yourself and do it, and you'll be so happy when you're done doing it." And sure enough, they won it, and they were like, "Man, you were right, Sergeant Major." I was like, "I ain't gonna say I told you so, but congratulations." But
Oh,
yeah,
that was
Rochelle Warrior Restaurant is the best place I've ever ate, and everything they serve there is awesome. I mean,
okay.
I loved everything. Thanksgiving, man, it's on point. So if you're in Fort Carson, Colorado, Springs, up in the Springs, and you need to move over and go have breakfast or lunch or Thanksgiving dinner up at the Rochelle Warrior Restaurant. Awesome. Great leaders, great, you know, culinary specialists. They do a great job there.
All right. And I got one more for you, then I'll open it up to you if you want to say anything closing out. Uh, Besides the camaraderie, what's the one thing that you, or what are a couple of things that you miss about the military?
One, I miss the mission. Uh, waking up every day and knowing that there's something you got to get done, uh, and ensuring that you're doing everything to get what they need. I miss that. Uh, I don't believe in, well, before I say that, the next thing is doing PT with soldiers. Doing PT and going out to trainings with soldiers, like the range or the field, I miss that as well. Being able to see soldiers execute and start from one level and wind up at this level. I miss that a lot. It's never a bittersweet moment. I just don't like saying that because with change comes opportunity and everybody deserves that. So when I left not sad saying, "Oh, it's a bittersweet moment." No, it's not. This is a great moment because now you get a new leader, new mindset, new opportunities. You start fresh, go execute. Because when I took over an organization, I never dwelled in the past. Some of my peers wanted to tell me like, "Oh, here's the people you got to wear." Ah, nah, nah. I got two eyes, two ears, and I'm gonna sense and see that and hear that on my own. I don't want to be coerced or tell me what soldier's done wrong. I'd rather see it with my own two eyes and then evaluate it myself. Uh, so yeah.
Okay. One more thing I got for you, like a call to action, maybe for maybe anyone that you know anyone that might watch this video, and you want to call them out, or maybe not, just to come on here and share their story. If they're a veteran, this could help change people's lives. We know people. The veteran suicide rate is ultimately too high. They say 22 a day. That's way too many. Homelessness rate is up. People get out and they get lost. I mean, we all could fall victim to it if we don't have our stuff in a row. So just wanted to know if you knew any other veterans you might want to call out and see if they could come on here and share their experiences and their stories, on the podcast.
I know a lot of veterans. I'll tell you because I have a circle, but it's small. But I'm an influencer, so I have a large group of people. I'm a part of a lot of communities online, and I believe in just hitting them all up. This
Okay.
morning before I came on here, I did my little morning. Hey, good morning, my brothers and sisters. You know, veterans, NCOs, and all that stuff. And it's just about making sure that they understand that there are other sites and there's other podcasts as well. If they're not watching yours, that they can actually sit down and hear leaders speak. But some of the great leaders and some of my mentors, like Garrett Griffin, yeah, it's his podcast and everything. He'd be a great influencer here. Mark Halliburton, same thing. He's another great individual. Does his podcast. Great to have on here. I'll share that with him.
Okay.
They're retired as well. When I got ready to retire, those two individuals were the main point where if I had questions, I went to them, and they kept me straight. Uh, Command Sergeant Major retired Garrett Griffin was my mentor while I was in the Army. And as a senior leader, if I had mixed emotions or I didn't know I was new at something, I had no problem calling him and getting some advice where I needed to be, or I'd ask him to check me and see if I was in the right place at the right time, in my career. So just anyone out there that's transitioned that was a sergeant major, soldier, we can all share our experiences because they're going to be different. We're different because we're different people. Although we're going through the process together, I think we can all share something that we've done different.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we all got value to bring to the table when it comes to getting out of the military and sharing our ups and downs. And you never know who you're going to relate to, but this could change someone's life for the better, man. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for soldiers. Thank you for coming out here today and sharing your experiences, being vulnerable, being transparent. There's nothing really to hide. It's all in the past, and there's no turning back. So and even thanks for being an influencer and keeping that mentality going as a leader and trying to help, every day along the way. So I just wanted to open it up to you and see if you wanted to say anything before we close out for the day. Mute, you're on mute.
Like I've always told certain, hey man, I like putting on mute. You never know what people are gonna say while we're talking. I got my kids running around. My son's getting ready to do PT. He's already started his push-ups.
Let's go.
But no, hey, he's in there. He already knows 100 push-ups every morning, and then we go straight into the workout. So he's starting. So that's
There you
good.
go.
But no, what I really want to share is understand this. The military is different for everyone. Some people are not made to be in the military. Some are. Uh, and what I tell the younger generation right now, the military needs you to take the opportunity and volunteer. Don't listen to what other people have to naysay. Everybody has their own view on how things are. I think it's important that you try it out for yourself and you dictate if it's for you, if it's not. Uh, yes, there's a lot of things that are going on in the military that are bad, but as I've lived out here in the civilian life, there's no different. It's no
Mm-hmm.
different. And in civilian life, it's all happening and there's nothing there for you. Yes, it's happening in the military and it shouldn't be happening, but there's still opportunity there. There's still benefits. You're still getting something. You still get help. Uh, there's nothing you can do to try to change things. No matter what you implement, somebody's going to break the rules. It's just like there's a yes and a no. There's a right and a wrong. Uh, People are going to do wrong. Uh, I can't vouch for that. The only thing I can hope is as a soldier, you can understand that we're supposed to be held at a higher standard, meaning that we are disciplined enough to do the right things every day, whether people are watching or not. But if you're a young person out there that's looking for an opportunity, the military is the place to be. I did the Army and I love the Army. The Army is hiring. They're looking for people to fill the ranks. Uh, and I've shared that story online. So if you're a young individual that would like to do something different, try the Army. The Army, because right now there's not much out there. And minimum wages and the economy is like, it's really bad. I mean, there's some people, I took the other day to go to the store and buy some stuff. I was coming out of the store and there was an elderly woman and an elderly man sitting asking for money. And I asked him, I was like, why are you asking for money? Where's your kids? Why ain't nobody helping you? He's like, well, I had a heart attack. And this is an elderly guy. Like, he can't work no more.
Mm.
He's like, I had a heart attack. I couldn't pay my rent and they kicked me out of the house. So I gave them everything I had that day. And then I bought some stuff for the house and I gave it to them. But you never know what's going to happen. You can't control what's in the future. You can only control what's in this moment. And that's making the proper decisions and the proper choices that will set you in a situation later on in life that you'll look back and thank God that you chose those choices. So, like I said, hey, stay motivated. Uh, and God loves you. I love you. And like I always say, hey, it's your boy, AKA Mega Who, telling you I enjoyed being on this show. Is an opportunity to do what I love to do, and that's share my experiences and my story. So I appreciate it, Mike.
No problem. I appreciate you being on here. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening. If you guys know any veterans, and someone in the military that wants to share their experiences, I'd be more than happy to have them on. If you guys got any questions, you can like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube channel. But until next time, have a blessed one and take care. Appreciate you, Herman. Have a blessed one, man.